Is this cheap SSD worth it? Sony's PC ports are revealing the PS5's true power. The Witcher 3's next-gen reviews are here, and Kojima had to rewrite Death Stranding 2. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady, and by the time you're watching this, you can now play the free next-gen patch for The Witcher 3. And honestly, it looks even better than I thought it would. I know I've been talking about this game a lot over the past few weeks, but The Witcher 3, and The Witcher as a whole, is like one of my favorite series of all time. I discovered it because I went into GameStop with my two best friends the day after I graduated high school, and they had the first game in the bargain bin, and I had just gotten my first gaming PC, and I bought it for 13 bucks, and it was my summer game that year. I loved it. It's a cool linear action RPG, and by that time the second game was out, so I jumped right into that. Absolutely loved that as well. And then in 2015, I put like 200 hours into The Witcher 3, and suffice to say, that's one of my favorite games of all time as well. And it looks like it's just as good as it was back in 2015 because it's getting 9s and 10s across the board, which isn't really surprising because, again, it's an incredible game. But there's one thing that they improved that I think is worth highlighting, and that is the combat. Because for some reason, they haven't really been marketing it super well, but then there's this content creator on Twitter called Much, who I've been following for a while because my friend Jake Baldino did a video all about like Twitter game players who like hack out the HUD in games and show how amazing they are at games, and this was one of the people he highlighted. So I've been following this person since then, and they are absolutely incredible at games, but they highlighted this new combat camera system for The Witcher 3, and it looks like a massive improvement. Honestly, it looks like they pulled it directly out of Ghost of Tsushima. So you've got the camera kind of like close around Geralt, but the FOV is very wide, so you can see all of the enemies around him, and it just makes everything from the finishers to using your powers and all the different moves so much more cinematic that I feel like that alone is worth checking this game out for. And there are a ton of side-by-side screenshots on Twitter, and I just really wasn't prepared for how much work went into improving the graphics in this game. And just knowing that they improved the combat, again, I think that's the biggest reason to jump back in, because in my opinion, that is the weakest aspect of The Witcher. The combat just didn't really ever feel that great, and it wasn't as cinematic as I feel like it could be. And also, Geralt just didn't really control all that well. He just walked kind of stilted, you know, like, I don't know, Bethesda character. It looked like when you go third person in Skyrim. They say that they've also fixed a ton of bugs with the game. I just hope personally they didn't fix the bug where Roach can just kind of spawn on roofs, because that was always the best laugh I would get in that game, when you walk out of a house and you're like, where is the horse? And then you look up and he's just like chilling on the roof of a house. It's like, how the hell did he get up there? And I hope that is not patched out of the game, because I love that. And I also heard that they took some really highly downloaded mods and actually paid the developers of those mods to include them as features in this new next gen update. I can't really corroborate that, so if they didn't do it, don't come at me in the comments, but if they did do it, that is a really cool thing to do. So yeah, it's out December 14th. It's a free upgrade. At this point, you can get The Witcher for like 10 bucks on PS4 with all of the DLC, and then it's a free upgrade from there. So that's the way I would do it personally. So look, one of the coolest moments of the Game Awards was obviously getting the trailer for Death Stranding 2. For me personally, it was like a religious experience because I was in the room and I got to see Hideo Kojima in person and breathe the same air as him, and then he showed a new trailer for a sequel to one of my favorite games. It was just absolutely crazy. But then we started to see some of the story details coming out, and it actually seems like a coherent sequel to a Kojima game, which is nuts, right? Like, most of his stuff is esoteric. There's weird ARGs to play to lead up to the game, but this one, no. We got a story setup trailer that kind of tells us everything we need to know. And then Kojima himself is talking about the story to the game, and he actually said he had to rewrite the entire thing from scratch because of the pandemic. If you don't know the whole story, basically Kojima is a prophet. This happened with Metal Gear Solid 2, where he just basically predicted the rise of AI and weird shadow governments and everything that's happening in the world. So that was Metal Gear Solid 2, which came out decades ago at this point. And then now with Death Stranding 1, he basically predicted the pandemic and how everything would fall out from that. And when he was on stage at the Game Awards, he basically said, I had to rewrite this game because I don't want to predict any world-altering events anymore. I'm done being a prophet, and I'm just going to do a cool story that's a cool follow-up to one of my games. This video is sponsored by Aura. Look, if you've been watching the channel for a little bit now, you know I've been using Aura for months, and it has come in handy so many times. I've been playing through one of my favorite games, Jedi Fallen Order, and I remembered that they released a figure of Cal Kestis, so I went online and I went to one of my classic websites where I would have gotten my identity stolen before, but this time I remembered to use Aura, and my identity has remained intact. So that's why I'm happy to once again partner with today's sponsor, Aura. Aura is a really easy to use app that gives you everything you need to stay safe online. One of its coolest features that sets it apart from its competition is that it constantly scans the dark web for your email address, your address, basically any personal information all the way down to a social security number, and gives you an instant notification if it finds anything. They also fight back against those annoying websites that make your private information public so you stop getting robocalls, and I will say, ever since I started using Aura, I have gotten far less robocalls. They'll alert you to suspicious credit inquiries, which is nice, and their VPN keeps you anonymous online. They even have a password manager. Look, you might already have an app that does something Aura does, but the benefit you're getting here is that Aura does everything for one single price. And as you can see on the screen right now, paying once for Aura is probably a lot cheaper than paying 7 times for 7 different apps. Just let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online, and use my link aura.com/PSReady to sign up right now so you get 2 free weeks. The character I'm most curious about is this new Troy Baker character. Troy Baker played Higgs, who's one of the coolest looking characters in anything. I actually modeled my Destiny character off of him just because that gold mask he has, like the Egyptian theming of his character, was awesome. And the fact that he's voicing this new character is obviously making people think that it is Higgs, but the character looks totally different. Somehow, even though I had it projected on a movie screen in front of me, I didn't see that this guy's like chest cavity is plastic, and you can see all of his organs kind of like a BB pod like is his chest. So that kind of does lend credence to it maybe being Higgs. I don't know. I'm just really curious about this game. I went to the website. There's more info on this character. I'm curious also how Fragile is cured. I'm curious why Sam aged. Like, did the time fall actually hit him and age him up a little bit? Or is this taking place like many years after the first game? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered here. And I'm kind of bummed that he had to rewrite it, because that just means we're going to have to wait longer to play the actual game. As for when this game's coming out, I would guess at the earliest it'd be like late 2023, but my bets are really on early 2024. I know it's a sequel, and he'll probably just expand on the ideas that were in Death Stranding 1, and Death Stranding 1 didn't take all that long to produce. But yeah, just hearing that he had to rewrite the entire story, that's making me think we should probably expect this game in 2024. A lot of people are also wondering what's going on with this game with Microsoft, and basically he's given us some new hints there that might not even be an actual game. It's going to be more of like an interactive experience, a la something like Immortality or As Dusk Falls, or maybe a Dark Pictures game where you're just playing out a movie. So I don't think we're going to have to wait too much longer to see what that is. But basically the reason that that's ending up on Xbox, from what we understand, is that it needs the cloud technology of Xbox. So I don't think that's going to be a game anywhere near as big as something like Death Stranding 2. But I did notice that Sony is listed as the only publisher on Death Stranding 2. So unlike the first game, where 505 Games was somehow able to publish the PC port, I think Sony's going to publish the PC port if and when it does come out for this game. Anyway, speaking of PC, we got to talk about Returnal for a second, because it's kind of revealing how powerful the PS5 actually is. So this game has been in development for PC for a very long time. If you guys didn't know, they've been updating like the artwork on the Steam page in the background for like months now. They have the Steam Deck verified badge there and everything like that. But this news story is kind of making me wonder how this game is going to run on Steam Deck, because the recommended specs for this game are kind of nuts in one category. Because if you look at like the CPU, the GPU, all that stuff, everything is kind of standard for what you would expect in 2022. But if you look at the RAM, this game for recommended settings requires 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is absolutely nuts, because I don't think I've ever seen that. As for why, I'm just assuming it's because of the quick respawn thing. That's really the only thing I could think of for why they would need that much RAM, but that's almost 2 times more RAM than the PlayStation 5 actually has. And this is one of the best looking PS5 games. It's actually the first PC port of a game that's only ever come out on PS5. And the fact that a PC needs double the RAM of a PlayStation 5 to run it basically shows that, yeah, Housemarque probably wasn't lying when they said this game could not be handled by the PlayStation 4. Because even though the PlayStation 5 is super powerful, like from a raw parts perspective, you're really working with a PC that's around 2080 Super, 2080 Ti sort of range, and we have well exceeded that that graphical capability since that card because we're already on the 40 series of cards, but it just goes to show that the graphics card isn't everything because even the PC can't run this game at recommended settings without that 32 gigs of RAM, whereas the PS5 is doing it with 16 gigs of RAM and everything on one chip. I think the saving grace here for this game is the fact that the Steam Deck uses a very similar APU to what's in the PS5. They both use RDNA 2 chips, which means that this game is optimized for a very similar chip to what's inside the Steam Deck. I don't know how they're going to get past that RAM constraint though, because I actually don't know how much RAM the Steam Deck has. I want to say it has 16 gigs, but again, that's half of what you need on a regular PC to get recommended settings. And now we have an SSD watch update because there is a new contender jumping in the ring to defeat the Samsung 980 Pro. So if you guys haven't been keeping up with the prices rising and falling on these SSDs, we've seen the 980 Pro go all the way down to like $160 to $170, which is extremely cheap for a fast 2TB SSD with a heatsink. But now there's a new option marketing itself for the PS5. It's the crucial P5 Plus 2TB PCIe Gen 4 X4 M.2 SSD up to 6600 megabits per second, and it retails for $320, but right now you can get it on sale for $161. I'm rounding up the cents. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have this drive when I did my mega roundup where I looked at like 6 different SSDs and put them all in the PS5 and tested how fast they download games or transfer them to the internal storage, but it looks like this one meets all the speed requirements and it has pretty decent reviews on Amazon, and it's really cool to see that they have an option on the Amazon page where it says like with heatsink for PS5. So they're basically saying, yes, this drive is for the PS5. And at the price of $160, I'd say it's worth the gamble, right? Like pick it up on Amazon and then put it in your PS5. See if you're getting some good download speeds, some good transfer speeds. Check the side of your console to see if it's heating up where the SSD slot is. And if everything seems good, you're good. You can just hang on to it and use it for years to come. And if anything feels weird about it, Amazon has a really good return policy, so you can just send it back. Of course, my recommendation is always going to be to go with the 980 Pro. It is going in and out of stock though on the Samsung website because it's been on such a good deal. But if you keep an eye on it, I've seen it go in and out of stock throughout like a period of a day. So I recommend that one, even though it is a little bit more expensive, just because it's the one I'm using and I've had zero issues with it. But if you want to check out an alternative, or maybe you're trying to save a little bit more money, I feel like 160 is a good deal for this new Crucial SSD. And if you do pick it up, let me know how it performs for you down in the comments below, or if you want to see me use it, also let me know as well. So with all this Spider-Man 2 news coming out, guys, it is time for Sony to make a collector's edition PS5. Do you remember when Spider-Man came out on PS4 and they released that PS4 Pro that was all red and had the white Spider-Man logo, and then it got like totally blown out of proportion how much that thing was worth on eBay? Like people were selling that thing for more than the PS4 Pro cost after it came out. We could have that exact same thing happen if Sony realizes how smart they'd be for producing plates at the very least to go along with this game. Because I don't know, you can look at all the games Sony's made for the PS4, the PS3, the PS5. The one that has sold the most, you can fact check me on this, I'm pretty sure is Spider-Man by an incredible number. And the new design, having the black suit, having Venom involved, it lends itself so well to custom plates on the PS5. All they have to do is take the midnight black plates that they already have and then just put a little stencil on there and spray paint it white, and then suddenly you have the white Spider-Man logo right there on your PlayStation 5. I cannot tell you how badly I would also love a black DualSense with the Spider-Man logo just on the touchpad. I would hope that if they did produce something like that, they would end up selling it separately like they did with the God of War Ragnarok controller, because I love the custom controllers, right? Like I don't mind paying a little bit of a premium to get a cool controller that ties into a game that I already love. And the fact that the PS5 has replaceable plates makes it so much cooler because they could sell the plates for the same price as the controller, and I would definitely go out and pick up a set of those. And they could also produce an entire bundle that comes along with the plates already with the console and then this new controller and the game, and they could sell that for around like $600, and I think people would buy it. And also knowing that this game is coming out in 2023, it could be a perfect game to tie into the PS5 Slim. And once that thing is out and we have the new updated plates that allegedly are going to have a hole for a removable disk drive, that's when Sony can start start producing these custom plates and get them out into the wild. And I think that's what they'll probably end up doing this generation versus making collector's editions, because those things sell for a lot of money in the resale market, but to Sony, they're just another PS5, right? Like the most they've ever marked them up is like $50. So if they can just cut the middleman out and sell you the regular PS5 and then give you the option to go buy plates for any game you want, I think that's what they'll probably do, because they'll make more money in the long run. But you know, there is incentive for Sony to make a collector's edition console as well, because even with how irrelevant the PS4 has become at this point, you can still get $400, the asking price of the console, for that Spider-Man PS4 Pro. And if you have one in the box, you can make up to $600. So yeah, if they make a black suit Spider-Man PS5, that thing could potentially sell for up to $1,000.